What's going on, guys? This is Wahib Haroon, and today's video is about the dangers of the upcoming war. So if you're in North America, Canada, America, and Europe, you need to watch this video because this is very important. I'm not sure how much of the real news makes it on its way on the other side of the world because once again, there's a lot of side distractions such as entertainment and sports and whatever you have like out there. But here we see news a little bit differently, and just to give you a little bit of background, this is part 3 of the other video that I've also recorded. So I'm actually a Canadian from Canada, from Toronto, and I have been living in East Asia. Initially, I came here long term just because life in North America was unaffordable and I just needed, a different perspective on life. But the fact that I'm here now, I am seeing everything unfold from a really different lens. One of the main things that I'm seeing is the Russia-Ukraine war, and I strongly think it's at the phase of spilling over. And once again, I'm not an alarmist. I'm not somebody who's a conspiracy theorist of any sort. I am a logical thinker. And you know what? With me, I think that there's a lot of people out there like myself that are also looking for solutions, answers, because everybody at this point in time is really concerned about their livelihood of potentially, of what can basically happen. The catastrophic events that potentially could unfold. And if you look in the media of how they are talking about nukes, like what is it? It's like a toy gun. Every single day, I'll nuke you. And literally everybody is playing with this subject like it's nothing. But ultimately, we are the middle class. We are the people that run the system, and we're the ones, unfortunately, a lot of times get caught up, dragged into, other people's messes. But here we are. So in case, if something was to happen, what are going to be the solutions, or what will someone do in the likelihood of if there is a nuclear war or war in general with recession looming? There potentially people are talking about the markets crashing, and there has been bank runs too. So once again, we are a community of people where what we are trying to do at my channel with my audience is to come up with the game plan of what these solutions are. Either you're going to be a prepper, which, to be quite honest, most people watching, they're not really hardcore preppers. At the time, God forbid, if something was to take place, where would you be standing? That's a question that I ask myself. Now, I'm going to give you guys some hard facts. I'm in the East, I'm in Thailand, and with me, I've been here for close to about a year now. So it's given me a chance to sort of move around East Asia, go live in different countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, I was in Bali, now I'm in Thailand. So life here, I'm telling you guys, it's not so bad. So ultimately, after coronavirus, the North American societies, they have not been the same ever since. And people, the cost of living is too unaffordable. Why did people leave the East to go to the West? Was because, in the 70s and the 80s, because that's when the global shift of power was shifting from the East to the West. Now I see that shift is happening right back from the West to the East. So you know what? The one common solution to this, and I'm not telling anybody to pack up your stuff, although a lot of people that I've spoken to, they are planning, they've already left Canada, they've already left America, they are basically going to a place of opportunity where cost of living is not too over the top expensive, and you can still are able to afford, good quality lifestyle without having to literally spend, without having to break your bank. That's number one. You can still get cheap groceries, cheap food, because first of all, when you convert your dollars into the local currencies here, it's baht, it goes a long way to begin with. That everybody knows. But I'm giving you guys an update that, because Russia is supplying, the East with cheap gas. Gas is what powers your economy. At the end of the day, cost of, doing groceries, $100 goes a long way. So if you're in Europe, there's a lot of Europeans here. There's a lot of people here from North America. So you know what? The concept of the nomad capitalism is indeed I would say a potential solution, because once again, I myself don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it's not looking so good for the West right now. Imagine, all your eggs are in the basket in North America and in Europe, and next thing you see, a catastrophic event happens. If it was to take place, most people are going to lose everything. What do you got? And at that point in time, you don't even know if your life is going to be safe in these places. So at that point in time, how does a human mind try to, comprehend the magnitude of this? Some people will call me crazy. Some people will say that I'm really much out there, but I'm the type of person that I like to diversify. And I don't think it's a bad idea for someone to have at least a strategic game plan in case if something is not looking right, for a person to be able to maybe pack up and go somewhere. This is why this video is really informative. So I want to give a couple of facts. So basically, for you guys to go do groceries, let's say you take $100. $100 here, it's approximately Canadian $100 is about 2,680-ish bahts. It's still, and I'm going to give a little bit of perspectives. For example, if you go out there to buy bread is going to cost you maybe 30, 40, 50 bahts. So by the time you've done proper groceries, and I'm not talking about GMOs, I'm talking about proper organic groceries, you know what, that $100 is going to get you there. Now let's talk about accommodation. That's another big one. That's where people, they're getting killed. They're getting killed in North America because cost of living is, they cannot afford groceries, basic food basket. They have to get either food stamps or I'm not sure what else they're doing over there in terms of surviving. So grocery portion of things here, you're going to eat really well. Now let's talk about accommodation. This is something really big. Most people, they're having a very difficult time paying their rent or paying their mortgage. One of my friends was joking about that we're living in a day and age where, unfortunately, to be alive, it's sad for me to say this, it's a high expense. So, and ultimately, I'm going to make a follow-up video to this where I will share my thoughts of where I think, everybody's headed in the next 1 to 3 to 5 years in terms of which direction is politics, economy, and what is the trajectory looking like. I'm not going to talk about this in this video because it's just going to, I just want to focus on the subject right here. So let's talk about housing. Housing, if you basically go and you rent, we're going to specifically focus on rent because ultimately it will require me to make another video in terms of what it's like to maybe buy a house here because there's legalities and other accounting framework and finances involved, and that's not going to be enough for me to cover everything in one video. So rent prices over here are still relatively, you can get, let's say if you're living out in Phuket, 1 month's rent living at maybe in like a 2-bedroom apartment, you're looking at about $1,000 Canadian. If you're living long term, maybe $800, $900, and the infrastructure is pretty well intact, modern. I'm talking about style of living, because what's going on is that if you cannot afford to live in a place, then a couple of things needs to happen. Are you going to still stay there and stay the full course and say, hey, you know what, I'm just going to keep grinding it out? Unfortunately, some people, they just don't have an option just to get up and go. And I'm not telling my audience today to get up and go, but I am telling what I'm doing with my audience. I'm saying that, hey, you know what, that when I was in Canada, I had tunnel vision. And my vision, I was looking at it like this, where, you know what, I build problems and I was looking for potential solutions as, hey, you know what, how are we going to do this? How are we going to basically make the next move? How are we going to move up in life? So basically, because of cheap access to resources are still intact in these places, cost of doing business is cheaper, and you know what, life is cheaper, and it gives you a fair chance of how maybe you probably would have received back in Europe or North America maybe 10 years ago or maybe 15 years ago. But ever since then, inflation, if you look at the inflation graph, it's just literally been going up, and there is no signs of slowdowns. And what I see from here is that war is being instigated, and literally both sides, whether if it's Russia or NATO or North America, everything is just coming closer and inching closer together based on my research. And you know what, in the West, because of these reasons, that gas is most expensive, so the cost of doing business has really gone skyrocketed. For food too. I'm going to see month over month or increase in food prices. I still think they're going to keep climbing. That's why people, if you look at inside every household, people are very stressed out. There's fights between couples in every household, and on top of it, there's barely living and surviving just to get by. And you got to ask yourself, is this what you signed up for? And once again, the ideology is not for someone to just pack up and say, hey, I'm leaving. Either slowly transition in case of the likelihood of a disaster. At least keep your options open. So what I'm trying to do with my audience here is I'm trying to show you guys little strategies of literally places that you could go. So now let's talk about, because I'm in Thailand. Excuse me, guys. Let's talk about Thailand. In terms of coming here. So if you're new, if you've never been to Thailand, the way it is that you basically, as Canadians, or you get visa on arrival. They give you, now before it used to be 1 month, but now they give you 1.5 months, which is about 45 days. And then from there, you are allowed to renew it one more time. So basically you get 3 months, which is enough for you to basically come here, figure out, if you're going to basically live here, if you're going to work here, what your legal status is going to be like to stay here long term in terms of having cheaper cost of living. So you are able to be in a better position to either move back to North America at some point while we know when things have basically calmed down. But the way it's looking more and more, that God forbids, if something was to happen tomorrow, they would be stuck to where they are. And I'm not saying that the East doesn't come with their own problems. On this side, there's China and Taiwan. That entire saga is also going on this side as well. But relatively, I'm finding places like Thailand or Dubai or Bali or Vietnam, they're still relatively quiet. Crime rate is low. Your infrastructure is not decaying. And the biggest problem, as an accountant, I will tell you, by the time inflation makes its way into food, that's what creates greater problems for people living. Because if accommodation up until now was very unaffordable, people were still trying to figure out a way to get by. But now you see crime is on the rise. Government rollback on, government-based spending. So broken roads, broken bridges, broken system. So now all of a sudden that's contributing to third world problems. And what's going on is that, because all this brain dump is starting to get up and move right back to the East with cheap cost of labor. There is ample amount of opportunity for you if you want to start a business online. You have so many vendors that they're waiting for people now. What's going on is that this is another trend that I'm noticing here. This trend is a good trend that before everybody would just go to China and buy everything from China. But they're trying to reduce their dominance on China and, in terms of their dependability on China. Now, places like Malaysia, places like Indonesia, places like Thailand, there's a lot of these same Chinese vendors, or they have like branches here, or there's Thai business owners, or Indonesian or whatever, Vietnamese. These people, they're really open for business. And they want to do business. They see that these places are thriving. India has never looked, better than where it's at right now. Like, it's primed with cheap energy and cheap, resources in terms of doing business. This is where these countries are going to dominate. So, I don't think if there is a global event where geopolitics are pointing in that direction. And once again, I'm not here giving anybody any type of advice, or I'm not favoring one party over another. I'm just, as an accountant, taking a step back, and I'm looking at the bigger picture, and I'm seeing what life is becoming and what myself, or what do I need to do here in terms of maintaining a forward-thinking approach. Because now people, what they're doing, their thought process has shifted from moving up in life to survival. Most people have entered survival, and mind you, there are some people still in the West that are going to make a lot of money. They made a lot of money in the time of coronavirus, such as real estate was booming, real estate agents, just a small example, or people doing mortgages, or they ended up making a lot of money. So there were some people that made a lot of money, but a lot of other people basically lost a lot. But now what's going on, the effects of all the printed money in the economy, it's literally is having, and before coronavirus, it's not like the economies were doing great. They were basically at an optimal level, but with the shift with coronavirus and with all the printed money, what it's done is that it's created a lot of problems, which I myself don't think you will see the full picture in the short run. I think a lot of these problems, they're just starting to show now. I think in about 4 to 6 years, that's when we're going to really see the full effects of what coronavirus did and how we put our lives on hold. And again, what I'm seeing is that with all the other problems that are in the works of how there's people fighting, or there's a lot of like these wars coming up on the horizon. Food is basically unaffordable. Cost of living is unaffordable. So you have to ask yourself, what do you do as a consumer? So here I leave you with the thought in this video that once, standing today, if you were to look at life in terms of Russia-Ukraine war, this is the question that I leave my audience with. Do you guys see this blowing up and becoming bigger, this entire conflict? Or do you guys see this, things getting better? Obviously, I leave you guys, with your own research in terms of do what you guys think that is right for you. I just wanted to basically make a video and emphasize what nomad capitalism is, and to be able to work as in the digital space, online, in the commerce space, or take your work online, figure out different strategies, take your banking online, try to automate a lot of your processes. And if you guys leave me comments, I will make actual videos of how I was able to do this for myself, where I got up and I was able to still be able to work in Canada while I'm living in East Asia, and still be able to grow, still have optimistic views in life, still think about how we're going to grow. And as human beings, we've always been made to think that how are we going to move and strive for better. That's what the American dream or the Canadian dream is supposed to be. What it has become, it's all in front of you. So please don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, so I can keep making good content for my audience, and I can share my experiences of what it's like to basically how is it like to live in the East, how is it different than the West, what are some of the challenges that you face with, what do you need to basically get up and move, how should you digitize your system before moving just so you're able to work online. If you're just going to leave everything, move to the East, what kind of job should you look for, where should you stay? So these are all the questions that I want to address in my future videos. This is where I want you guys to give me some feedback as to what would you like me to make a video on next, so I can go ahead and address these concerns, or address these topics for my audience. Thank you for tuning in, guys. See you in the next one. Bye now.